What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Josh Robinson Show. I am your host, Josh, and I have got just a wonderful episode planned for everybody today. A little bit later in the show, well, very soon. I'm not going to waste too much time with this little intro, but very soon you're going to be able to hear this chat with Tony from LuchArcade, which I'm so excited that I got the opportunity to talk to this dude. He is awesome. We just had the best chat, even pre and post recording. He is just a wonderful, wonderful dude. Make sure to go check out all of his stuff. All of his links will be in the description, and he kind of, has the opportunity, of course, to put himself over and tell you about his stuff. But we have a good chat coming up about just chasing, following your heart, following your dreams a little bit. Wrestling. We talk about video games. We talk about wrestling video games. Just what led him to all of this, and just a nice chat. Now, this is a little bit of a supersized episode of the Josh Robinson Show. Obviously, I usually do episodes that are about 20 or 30 minutes long, but this one is way longer than that, and I do not care in the slightest. I understand there's a lot of content to consume just in entertainment in general, but saying that, the quality of this is worth the time. I hope you check out all of this, whether you're watching on YouTube, or you're listening to it as a podcast. Either it works either way, so I appreciate it all. Leave a like, leave a comment, leave a subscribe, or whatever you want to call it, and just enjoy this chat, whatever it may be, but go and check it out. Make sure to check out Wrestling Reverb this Friday as well, because it's a little bit of a new chapter of Wrestling Reverb. Be hyped for that, but I'm not going to waste any more time. Please go and check out this interview right now with Tony from LuchArcade, right here on the Josh Robinson Show. Do it. What is going on, everybody? Now, you've already heard me kind of introduce the episode, but what this special guest I was alluding to is something that, well, it feels like it's been a long time coming, but it's probably only been like a week since we originally kind of chat and started to work this out. But I'm very keen for this chat. Now, it's kind of tradition around here on this show to kind of let you introduce yourself. So tell everyone who you are and just what you are about.
Oh, so hi everybody that's listening right now. My name is Tony, and I appear on social media as LuchArcade. But yeah, I prefer that people call me Tony, and that's my name, so that's better than LuchArcade. That must be awkward. That must be awkward. Like you people, I guess, call you Josh, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, right. I don't know if I had at any moment somebody calling me, if they would call me, hey, what up, LuchArcade? Like, that sounds awkward, right?
Yeah, it's like,
yeah, I prefer that you call me Tony. But yeah, first and foremost, before I forget my manners, thank you so much for having me there.
Of course.
Really appreciate it. Now, it's like my third podcast since I started my channel.
Yeah.
So I'm very excited, actually. I feel like I want to go on a mission. I want to go on every single podcast that exists on this planet, whatever the content, whatever the subject. I don't care.
I like that.
Yeah, the thing is, I'm French. You can hear it,
Yeah.
And the thing is, I speak too much. I feel like I speak too much. I guess my Italian side as well is a part of it. But I speak too much. I speak a lot, and I love speaking, I think. I feel like
Me too. We can relate on that.
Right. So, I feel like I have an opinion on everything. So I feel like whatever, if you have a podcast talking about horses and you want to talk about a few minutes about wrestling games, no problem. But I'll jump on the horses conversation as well. Whatever. But yeah, no, I have a channel that I started actually a month ago.
Damn.
And it's a YouTube channel where I actually present my wrestling games, because I collect wrestling games, video games, since I'm 8-year-old actually, since WWF Warzone on a Nintendo 64, and I bought everything I could, because it's a lot of money to be spent,
yeah.
And since I do not, I don't live in the United States, so. I don't know about Australia, but in France it's hard to find those video games. In general, I guess when you go to flea markets and stuff, you find them. In the US, I know you find them. I lived there for 5 years, but in France it's very hard to find. So you've got to rely off of eBay, and on eBay people are not they're not fair with their prices. So you've got to wait. You know what I'm saying, right?
Yeah, I know. We can't. It's eBay that we've got to find any of these classic games just in general, and even just wrestling games, just classic games in general. You have to go on eBay, and it is bad with people not really being all too fair with pricing and stuff like that. But I mean, you're obviously, I've watched a lot of your stuff on YouTube. You're obviously a collector of things, especially with wrestling, retro wrestling games, and just wrestling games in general. You have, one of everything on every system, and it's just like, this is dedication. So when you're like dedicated to something, you kind of, I know for me, you can speak for yourself here, but it's kind of, you look past the price in some ways, but it is very unfair on eBay and stuff like that.
Well, I appreciate the fact that you use the word dedication instead of craziness. Because, to be fair, yeah, sometimes I look at it, and when I'm doing a video and I'm like, yeah, I'm just going to present, like, for example, TNA Impact. Yeah. And I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna capture the footage because, I don't necessarily take videos that exist already on YouTube. I capture my own gameplay because it's easier for me to make, voiceovers. Yeah. And I know what I'm gonna talk about. I don't forget anything. I've got the whole experience, So, and for example, when I took TNA Impact, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna take it. So I took the first one that I saw, which was on Xbox 360, and it's a good system to capture things because it's in 1080p. And I was like, wait a second, because I actually have this game on PlayStation 2, and I have this game on Wii, and I have this game on PlayStation 3, and I was like, I have this game on fucking every system. What the hell with that? And I was like, this is mad. And on top of it, I was like, wait a second. Not only do I have it on every system, but I have the variant cover from the US version on Xbox 360, on PlayStation 3. And so I've got 7 times the same game. And I'm like, this is probably $50 to $60 right there, which I could have spent in a game that I'm looking for right now that I don't have the budget to buy. You know what I'm saying? So sometimes I feel bad about that, but after that, I'm like, yeah, well, that's dedication, as you say, so I feel better.
I call it dedication anyway, so safe space with me, I guess. But I don't even know, I believe I started watching your videos a few weeks ago. Maybe you followed me on Twitter, maybe I just seen it on YouTube, I can't remember. But I started watching your stuff and I'm like, this guy just seems like he wants to have a good time and play old wrestling games. That's kind of, that seems like a perfect person to talk with. And then, we kind of started chatting and I seen your tweet about that and I was like, I need to talk to this dude because, again, you just seem like a fun person, which is just what I want. With my kind of stuff, everyone kind of knows whether it's, I've got a bunch of different stuff that I do, whether it's the Josh Robinson Show or Wrestling Reverb. I just like to have a little bit of fun, like to spread a little bit of positivity. I don't really like to just, life can be really dark and horrible if you let it be, but I just see content like you're making and a lot of other people are making, and it's just, 15, 20 minutes of just, dicking around for a bit, and I like that.
Yeah, well, kudos to you. Spreading positivity is the best thing, especially on, the thing is, let me talk about the very beginning of this, because, I started the channel 3 weeks ago, like a month ago, and you told me, you said, I added you on Twitter. Yeah. And yeah, that's true. The thing is that I'm good with social media because that's the thing I studied. And, I was like, which social media is going to be the best suited for my activity. So definitely I will not talk as YouTube as a social media itself, even if it is, that's not my main focus right there. To actually connect with people, because you can open a channel. You have your own YouTube channel. If you just open a YouTube channel, unless you're lucky and your video gets recommended out of nowhere by the algorithm, you're not gonna get views and people talking about what you are producing, right? You have to actually make the work yourself and to actually contact people, spread on social media. So you do this too with your Twitter. I don't know which one works best for you, but me, by experiencing a little bit everywhere, I realized that Twitter was probably the best way, especially because there's something that you learn a little bit when you are on Twitter, is that there's something called a wrestling Twitter. And that's basically the wrestling community on Twitter, which is absolutely gigantic. Yeah. And if you realize that, so when you collect games, it's easy to have an Instagram because you can make your page as a museum somehow, and make a showcase of your games, and people like to see retro stuff, right? But when you're on Twitter, you can actually have a conversation, and this is what matters. So how did I do that? Because people ask me sometimes, and I feel like a podcast like this is a good idea for people that want to start their own thing. there's plenty of space for everybody. So that's not a competition at all. And you know, what I did is that I because you know, when you're on Twitter, you need to make the conversation, but it can't be only about yourself. You've got to be, you know, you've got to do a discussion about other people as well. And so for your content, for example, and what I needed was to actually find people that resonate with what I do. And so I found the the AKI or AKI Evolution Club, you know, the people that make the AKI engine and the people that mod the game, WWF No Mercy mostly. And what I did is that I basically followed the 3,000 or 4,000 people that they have as followers, which includes you.
Yeah.
And from there, the people that followed me back, I started a conversation with them. And as simple as that. And it's great because you meet people that are like-minded. It's like going into a support group somehow and just talk about your craziness about what you have. And you know, and your fandom basically, and I love that. And so some people are not receptive to it at all. I just follow them and they don't follow me back, and that's all right. I keep on following them. I still stay with them because at some point they still come. Somehow I realize that they join the conversation at some point because they see the post of somebody retweeting it or something, and that's great because it fills my timeline with video game stuff. Related to wrestling as well, which I can share. Like your content, I can share it, I can retweet it, I can talk about it, and I'm glad that we are connecting because you know you are a positive person, and I am too. Yeah, no, you can tell, and people that actually host the party, like you're doing right now with the podcast, hosting other content creators, those people are the people who win. All right, and I'm very fascinated by people like you that actually hustle on that side and try to host the party and try to make connections and to actually spread, you know, positivity, as you said. I love that. I really love that. There's many people out there that are making a podcast because they want to be the king of the podcast. Yeah. They want to, you know what I'm saying. They want to be the best at it, and they don't retweet things about others because they don't want to be talking about other contents because it would maybe like, you know, hide their own content, and that's just bad. Yeah. That is just a bad thing. And I was talking on other podcasts for that, and I think that you guys are making, you know, when I say you guys, it's you, Josh, or you know, Rob or Fowl. Yeah. We're talking about that, and we recommend each other content, and I think it's just a good thing to do on Twitter.
I agree with you completely. Everything about that. It's you know, the thing I love most is I love making a podcast. It's a fun part of my week just to do 2 or 3 times a week. But you know, I don't even really look at the numbers or the statistics of my podcast too much. Sure, I'd love, you know, thousands and thousands of people listening. Anyone would, course. But it's more about, you know, connecting with people like you and people all around the world. I mean, it's not like we can run into each other, you know, on the street. We live in 2 very different parts of the world, and you know, I'm connecting with people in the States and people in the UK and other people in Australia, and it's just this is the outlet that I get to do that. So, you know, of course you want people listening, but at the end of the day, as long as I'm having interaction with good people that I find are, you know, not just doing this for, you know, selfish reasons. I'm just doing this to make a few friends online and talk about wrestling or talk about whatever. I'm kind of expanding with the Josh Robinson Show just to talk about, you know, other interests. I don't just love wrestling. I have many different interests and things that I want to talk about, and you know, there's enough, you know, there's enough negativity in the world, just in the media in general. So I just try to do my best. But you know, finding people like you to talk about online and stuff like that, and when it comes to, you know, wrestling, I think that's a main thing that a lot of people on wrestling Twitter obviously bond about, is the fact that we all love wrestling, or, well, a lot of us love wrestling. Some people just like to complain about wrestling, I think. But yeah, before we get to, like, wrestling video games in general, obviously you knew what wrestling was before you played wrestling video games. Where did you kind of find a love for wrestling? Or was it through video games that you found a love for wrestling?
Yeah, that's something I talk a lot about, because you know that's a common question, and you know, I love the reaction of people, because most of the people that fall into wrestling actually I mean, for the people that I talk to, they live in the US or in the UK or maybe in Australia, yes, but mostly it's the US and UK.
Yeah.
And people they just see it on TV. But I grew up in France, you know, and in France it was not showcasing on TV, or it was on cable, and I didn't have cable when I was very young. I didn't have cable until I think I was 10-year-old. So yeah, I actually learned about wrestling through video games. And that's because one of my friend had WWF Warzone on the Nintendo 64. That's my first console, my first salon console, and actually I had this game and I was playing it and I was having so much fun because you could just basically hit people with weapons for the first time I've seen that. You know, that was not that was not Punch Out. You know, you would take a chair and just hit people and people and actually those characters that had names. They had, you know, Triple H, Stone Cold Steve Austin, you know, they had names like that. And to me, it didn't mean anything. To me, they were fake characters. They did not exist. And that's later on when I was like 12-year-old that I was watching TV late at night on a French channel. And I was watching TV and I look at the thing and I see WWF Raw. And I was like, wait. What? Those people exist? Like, I mean, I was in shock.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I was in shock. I was like, wait a second. Triple H is a person? That's not a video game character? He has a fucking TV show? What is that? And after that, I see Shawn Michaels coming and Rob Van Dam and Stone Cold. I'm like, what? Wait a second. That's a game I had when I was 8-year-old. I was literally 4 years ago. And from there, you know, that was the beginning of internet on top of it. So
yeah.
We were stuck on the 56K modem kind of thing that were doing a horrible sound when you started up, you know.
Oh, yeah.
It was horrible. So we would take hours to load a page. And I started looking into it, and it's called wrestling. It's called World Wrestling Federation. It's a massive thing, and everybody's talking about it. And I'm like, okay, that's an actual thing. So I discovered wrestling like that. And it was
that's so cool.
I know.
Honestly, like, because I've really never heard, you know, most of the people that I interact with, you know, it's just the, you know, chronological order of just, I started watching wrestling, there's video games, I love both things, so I'm going to, you know, play the video game that I see on TV, but for you, it's opposite. That's so fascinating to me because you're literally just playing the game for literally the game instead of, you know, playing it because you've seen these big personalities on television. That's so cool. Yeah,
I was playing it because it was fun. It was a fun game to me, you know. Yeah. And you know, when you're 8-year-old, you don't really care about graphics and you know how the game has a extended roster and incredible moves and everything. Like people that were already maybe, I don't know, like 15 or 16-year-old that when I was 8-year-old would already care about. Yeah. That's why when people tell me, oh, Warzone would like right now when I say, hey, which one is the best wrestling game on Nintendo 64? And people tell me, well, that's definitely not Warzone. This is shit. Well, to me, as an 8-year-old, I'll tell you what, that game was fantastic. So much that it actually introduced me into wrestling. And sure, my nostalgia is like weighing heavily into my love for this game. But yeah, now with like, now that I think about it and I look a little bit from afar of it, and I'm like, okay, yeah, sure, that's probably not the best wrestling game ever, but it was not bad. It was not as bad.
Warzone I had on the PlayStation 1 because we were a PlayStation family. I have an older brother.
Sure.
I used to sit there and just watch my older brother play Warzone. Warzone was my first kind of... I was very young, 4, 5 years old, watching my older brother, you know, who's 7 years older than me. Obviously, I look up to him, so I was like, oh, he's playing this. I love this. I always loved Goldust in Warzone. He was my go-to character whenever I got to play Warzone. But Warzone was my kind of first, you know, wrestling video game. I was watching wrestling, you know, before playing video games and with my brother and stuff like that. But Warzone was my first video game as well. So that always holds a special little place in my heart because... you just, I remember it, and it's just, I play it. I'm terrible at Warzone, by the way. I'm horrible at Warzone. I
really?
Still don't know what I'm doing. Like
really, you don't know?
I cannot. No matter. I still have it on PlayStation 1, and I can, you know, pop it in my whatever, put it in my PS2 or something or whatever I want to do. And I still don't know how to control that game. I've never will learn.
I'm not surprised. You know, I'm not surprised. But here's the thing, actually. Most of the wrestling games are bad, to be fair.
They are.
Most of them are bad games. You know, that's the funny thing, is that I'm collecting video games that are mostly bad. People, you know, there are people that are collecting like Castlevanias or I don't know, like the Elder Scrolls or whatever other games, the GTA. But wrestling games are mostly bad. They have bad controls. There are horrible graphics in general, and even like when yesterday I was live on Twitch, I was playing backyard wrestling.
Oh boy!
And like I couldn't wait. To end the stream. I was streaming for an hour, and at 59 minutes I was like, I'm glad this is over because I'm done. I hate this game.
I've played that game, but even like what I love about your stuff as well is that yes, majority of these games are pretty bad, but they just hold such special places in our hearts, like Warzone and stuff like that, that I still, again, do not know how to play. I mean, of course, there's good wrestling games, but for the majority of the time, they aren't the greatest video games in the world. But they just hold special places in our heart. Like, SmackDown Shut Your Mouth will always hold, like, the biggest spot in my heart. Like, jumping off the SmackDown fist in that game, I done that. I just kept, get up, fall down, get up, fall down. Like, the amount of times that I did that in that game was just, you know, that was when I was 8, 9 years old when that game came out. So that's like, I didn't give a shit. I was just playing a wrestling video game because I was like, oh, I just want to be all these people and do dumb shit. And that's, you know, really, that's a lot of the old wrestling video games is just built on being able to do dumb shit. And I love that still. So they always hold special places in my heart. I'm sure the same with you. But for the most part, you are correct. They are not great games.
No, they're not, and in fact, most of them have been, I think, designed to have fun as a multiplayer game with your friends on the couch, and you play all together in the same room on a Friday night over pizza and stuff. But like, when you play those games as a solo player, you have a hell of a time, for real. Like yesterday, once again, I was playing backyard wrestling, for example, and I played for the. Okay, I'm not a great gamer. Like, I'm not skilled. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not the kind of guy, right? So, you know, when I see people like doing incredible speed runs and stuff, I'm like amazed. But I can't do this. But I enjoy games. You know, I don't play only pro wrestling games either. You know, I've went through the entire series of Zeldas. I've went through the Elder Scrolls to Fallout. There's plenty of games that I love, you know. But wrestling wise, you know, I didn't play them all. I collect them, and the thing is, backyard wrestling was one of them that I have, but I've never played. Yeah. Because I had it way later that it was released. So I played it yesterday, and for 59 minutes, for an hour, I did not pass the first level. I kept on being bitten, and this was horrible. But for real, like, and good, I'm not 12-year-old anymore, because my controller would have gone through the screen, then through the roof behind it. You know, like,
man, preach.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's what the hell. Like, you're playing the thing, and you can't do nothing. At some point I was like, is my controller even plugged in? I was wondering if it was plugged in. I was like, this is impossible. You can't do a single reversal. The guy is spamming the whole thing. On top of it, you know, this is the kind of wrestling games, because there's two schools in wrestling games. You have the games where the opponent is staying in front of you and actually fighting with you, and the other kind of game where the opponent somehow is running like a chicken without a head everywhere in the freaking game. And backyard wrestling is one of them. Just like the old WrestleMania games on the NES. This one, if you stay still, the other character, the opponent, is running everywhere, jumping on everything, taking everything in his hands, throwing shit everywhere, and you're like, does this guy even like relax at some time? You know, I know it's a wrestling game, but come on, man, that's like,
take a nap.
Yeah, take a nap, relax.
But it's so cool, like. You know, I've seen you play all types of. You've made it very like clear that TNA Impact is your like favorite wrestling game. Is that right?
It's not my favorite, but I was very surprised by it, and it still holds up today in 20. Oh, we're gonna say 2020 right now because we're about to be in 2020. But
close enough.
But it is a great game. It is a great game, and people give it shit because it's not a WWE one, but I'm sorry, but I still prefer TNA Impact over the last 5 to 6 WWE 2K bullshit. You know what I'm saying? Like, I still prefer TNA Impact so far.
It's a good game.
Yeah.
I love that game. That was always fun to me. I do see a lot of people kind of just being like, it isn't the greatest. I always liked it. Reminded me in a weird way, not like obviously on the surface, but it reminded me like of All Stars with its controls and stuff like that. And I love All Stars. I just, when I play video games in general, obviously our main goal with video games is to have fun. Well, at least in my mind, I want to have fun when I'm playing a video game. That's why I kind of, whatever I'm playing, whether it's Mario Kart or Crash Bandicoot or whatever, I just want to have fun. So All Stars, TNA Impact were fun to me. It was a little less thinking and a little more just, you know, going for it and just being like, I can just press this button and hope that it will kind of work.
It is because it's more arcadey.
Yeah, and I think I just prefer that style of game. And again, it's not for everybody. You do you, everyone. Whatever you like, you like. But you kind of have been... I'm curious to know... Wrestling games are awesome. You've kind of talked about how you were, you know, you're a fan of video games in general, and I just love how we're very much the same of that. I love video games in general as well, but I'm not that great at them. I never have been. There's a few games that I'm like, I'm really good at this, but other than that, like, I'm not very good at video games. I love them, and I'll happily play them, but I'm honestly pretty crap at all of them. You kind of mentioned Zelda and stuff like that. What are some video games that you loved growing up, and as you've grown up, what do you like now?
Yeah, so growing up, so I was a Nintendo kid, all right? So I didn't have the PlayStation like you did, and I didn't have the PlayStation until the PlayStation 2 for the release of GTA Vice City. Ooh. So I didn't have the PlayStation before that, and no PlayStation. But my friends had the PlayStation 1, so I played the Tomb Raiders and the Medieval and that kind of games, Metal Gear Solid and stuff like that. But I grew up with Zelda, definitely, the Mario games. I grew up with I love the Zelda franchise. I love it, so that's for sure. But I was a big PC gamer when I was a kid, so I played a lot of there's a game by Quantic Dreams, the guys that made Heavy Rain, for example, or what did they made? Detroit Become Human recently. The game that they made when I was young was called The Nomad Soul, Omicron, with an actual soundtrack designed by David Bowie. That's the kind of games that I love. I love point and clicks on PC, like the Monkey Islands, the Grim Fandango, you know, LuchArcade games. Nowadays, more Telltale games, you know, like... what did they release? The Walking Dead. They made The Walking Dead. They made the Batman franchise too. Got some. Even Minecraft story mode was funny. Those kind of things, you know. But I love the GTA franchise as well.
Me too. I'm a sucker for it.
And I love the Phantasy Star. I'm looking behind me because I'm looking at the games that I may forget, even if they are my favorite. The Phantasy Star and Phantasy Star Online that was released on the Dreamcast and GameCube later on, but it was more like a Japanese thing. We could play online. Pretty cool. I love online games. I love that. So, for example, more recently, I really played a lot of The Division 2. I love The Division 2. Yeah, it's a really good game. And actually, when it got released, I bought it on a CD, like a CD key seller. I don't know what we call that. You know that.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's not Steam. You know, I didn't buy it on Steam for $60, but I bought it for $40 because some people have cheaper ways to sell that. And I bought it there, and I was mesmerized by it. I literally binged that game so much that I became top 20% worldwide sharpshooter.
Damn.
And I know that was crazy. And I tell you, I'm not even really good at games, but this game was so cool that I like to be good at it. Fair. So
it's funny when you're bad, like when you're, you know, statistically fairly bad at anything, and if you really put your mind to it, I'm a believer in anything you put your mind to, you can achieve. That's just me in general with anything. But it's funny when you say stuff like that, because I'm not really so. Growing up, I played a lot of I didn't get a Nintendo till I was a little bit older, so I played a lot of Crash Bandicoot stuff like that. And that game now, if I play that now, I'm horse shit at it. Like, it's so hard, especially with the remastered version on PlayStation and whatever. And but it's hard. Like, it's so hard to play those kind of games. As a kid, I'd smash through all of those games because I guess when you're a kid, that's all you're focused on. Now we've got all these other stuff to do. You're worrying about being an adult and that horrible time being an adult. So you're just like, you don't have time just to focus on something for too long because you've got so many other things to do. When you're a kid, you're like, I go to school, I come home, and I sit in front of my TV and play the PlayStation or the Nintendo or the Xbox or whatever, and you can just fully immerse yourself in that world. So it is cool to just chat with you in general about this kind of stuff, because I've been waiting to do a podcast on video games in general for the longest time, and I just can't find the perfect person that just I can relate to on video games until you came along. So
oh well, yeah, no, I could go for hours on video games because there's so many things to say, and that's fascinating. You know, many games are good, many games are really bad, and plenty of people cover it on YouTube as well. So I've been watching a lot of episodes of like the Angry Video Game Nerd, for example, that talks about games that are awfully bad, and I played them too, you know. But those games, like, well, you know, but sometimes we don't talk about actual franchise that are excellent to the mind of people. And in fact, when I played them as an adult, like for example, I was talking about the Metal Gear Solid. Everybody praised Metal Gear Solid, the first one, and I played it. The first time I played it, I think I was like 25. I'm 29 right now, so I was probably like, that was 4 years ago, something like this. And I played it for the first time, and sure, I realized, like, you know, yeah, it is definitely a good game because, you know, it's well made. It's on the PlayStation. The graphics are crazy. You know, the way you can play the thing, the scenario and everything, but the difficulty and the way it is operated, the controls and everything, to me, doesn't make it a good game. And you know, for some people, like, nostalgia once again weighs heavily in this, and I make myself a lot of enemies when I say that Metal Gear Solid, the first one, is not good, and people look at me with big eyes like, what? Like, for example, the first, which one is it? Yeah, I know, it's crazy, but look, for example, Final Fantasy VII. I can't wait to see the remake that they're doing, because I played this game very late in my life as well, and that game is not an easy game, and there are things that are not explained very well, and to me, I was like, yeah, sure, it is a good game. Is that the best game I've ever played? No, it is not. And people look at me once again with big eyes and say, what are you doing? Look, I'm not saying your game is shit. I'm just saying that you probably have a heavy nostalgia about it that is making this game like it's putting it on a pedestal, and I don't think it deserves the praise it got, but maybe at the time it was an excellent game, you know. But nowadays, when you look at it, you're like, I don't know if it still holds up, you know.
Final Fantasy to me is so hard in just general. I remember having Final Fantasy, I don't even know what number, on a PlayStation 1, and it was like 4 discs, and I never got past the first disc. It was just so hard to me. But people hold a lot of those Final Fantasy games, like you said, on a pedestal, and I think nostalgia does weigh into it. But hey, like we said before, each to their own. Whatever their deal is,
of course.
Yeah, but those games are so kind of hard to me. What about did you ever get into obviously video games go in like ins and out of a craze, in the sense of there's certain different eras of time when these kind of games were popular, and then these, and we kind of go through the motions and we evolve with video games. Call of Duty is a huge, like, series that kind of stood the test of time, first-person shooters in general. Did you ever get into first-person shooters or anything like that?
Yeah, when I was a kid, I was playing Counter-Strike.
Oh yeah.
I was not into that Call of Duty thing because in fact I was playing those Call of Duties on PC when I was younger, or the Battlefield games, but mostly even Medal of Honor. Sorry, those games were good. But on PC, and it got very popular on consoles. Yeah. And the thing is, I do not like FPS with a controller. I don't like that. I prefer it with a mouse and a keyboard. And so because once again, I'm a bad player. I'm a bad gamer. Yeah. So if on top of it you give me the wrong controller to play it, like, forget it. I'm gonna suck at it. Yeah. And no, I didn't go into that craze. I played a lot of Counter-Strike back in the days. And I actually played it a little bit last year, but I just quickly realized that it is now full of cheaters, and the game is not just as fun. Like, I mean, actually, that's funny, but you know, I went on YouTube and I was like, are other people talking about this? You know, and I was like, how is that even a thing? That why do I feel like people are cheating so much in this game? And in fact, there was a guy from Valve. He said, well, look, there are so many cheaters on that game. We can't do anything about it. We don't have the choice. Nobody's buying the game anymore because of the amount of cheaters on it. So we just released the game for free, which is even worse because now people cheat at the maximum possible because when they get banned from the game, they don't care. They just download it again with a different IP, and they don't need to buy the game for like $60 again or whatever. So nobody cares. They just make a different Steam account and just play again. And I'm like, this game is rotten. And no, the Call of Duty, I didn't play them. I you know, that's the kind of games that comes every year, and I don't feel like it's getting better each time.
No, I don't know. I agree. I agree with you completely. They used to be a lot better when I was younger, and you know, Xbox 360 days when that was kind of the in console, and PS3 or whatever anyone was playing on console wise. But that was when it was actually, you know, fun to play them. I haven't, I mean, I think I bought a Call of Duty game a couple of years ago, but I maybe played it 5 times, and I was like, yeah, this was not worth my money at all. It's just not the same. I don't know, maybe it's just because we've grown up, or something, but I just feel like they're not at its core what they used to be. I feel like they've either added too much or stripped it back too much to really... They've sucked a lot of fun out of those games, not just Call of Duty, just that franchise in general. I mean, in the sense of that genre of games in general, I think has been a little bit overplayed. It's just, there's a lot out there, and it's just been going for a long time.
Well, I'm gonna tell you something. I'm big on business models, and I'm looking at trends, and that fascinates me. And the thing is, I can tell you that this is something that's gonna fade away because these are the last years. All right, I'm not saying it's gonna happen right now, but these are the last years that we're living right now, where we actually will be able to first buy physical copies of our games. This is about to be extinct. All right, this is like video games in a box. You can forget it. We already don't have the manual anymore. Even some games come with just a box, and inside there's a pamphlet with not even like a little flyer that says download the game here with this code. And I mean, we are coming to a moment where the games are just downloadable content. And like, for example, I'm gonna tell you about, I can't talk really about Call of Duty, but I'm gonna talk about something that that's really the same basically as the WWE games, like the 2K19, from 2K19 to 2K20. I don't think it is worth an extra $90 for that. You know,
it's it's 2K19.5. It's like a lot of the stuff in this game. Listen, I'm a lover of WWE. I'm a lover of WWE games.
Sure.
I'm that person that will. I am that kind of person that will buy it, but I'm not really one just to kind of, you know, I just buy it just because it's wrestling and I just like to play it. But even me buying this every year, it's stuff especially with this game, this upcoming game, 2K20, is just stuff that should have been in a patch, you know, 6 months ago.
Absolutely.
You know, we shouldn't be paying another $60, $70, $80, $90 to get this game that is just 2K19 with a fresh coat of paint, really. I still enjoy the games. I just genuinely do. That's just how I am. But I understand where everyone's coming from and being like, I don't want to buy this because it's just the same game that we've been getting for the last 3 or 4 years. Like, it feels like a while since a game has taken, wrestling-wise, has taken a big jump from year to year. Like, it used to be like, you know, even when we used to get SmackDown versus Raw, every year there used to be a different game. It seems like since maybe 2K14 or WWE 13 or around those games that we've just been getting each time just slightly updated. Especially the last few years, it's just been just a slightly updated game that really should have just been in a patch.
Well, that's the problem with these games, because in fact the generations of console don't go as fast as the games are going. So it means that we are keeping our Xbox One for maybe like, I don't know, 6-7 years. And after that, there's a new generation of console that comes with a new CPU, a new, like, you know, new motherboard, new hard drives with like SD cards and stuff. So like, you know, you have so many like you have a new technology, but it's not evolving every year for the consoles. So when they release a game every year, it is still limited by the capabilities of the console itself. Therefore, you know, they can't make a release for WWE 2K20 that is light years away on PC version from the console version. They just can't do that.
No.
Even if it is possible, if they really want to, they can make a total different game on PC, because our PCs are able to handle that, but the consoles can't. No. And the fact that, you know, they want to sell those games and people on PC are not buying games as much as people are buying on consoles, well, they have to make it even on all platforms. Yeah. And the thing is, releasing a new game every year, unless you put extra content, you know, it's not holding up. And on top of it, they are trying to secure a sale. They're trying to secure a sale. So they want to sell the game for the price it normally goes for, $60. But now it's not enough. They want to secure the sale, and therefore they have to put extra content on it for a deluxe version for $30 more, and like a SmackDown edition or whatever for $130, which basically doesn't add anything to the game. All you have is little goodies that are like mass produced, that cost $1 each, and that are not even fun to have in your house. Like, I mean, who cares about a square inch, right? It's just nothing. Right, an inch square of the apron of SmackDown in a plate. Nobody gives a shit, you know. Like, give us something for the game. Give us a good game, you know. And no, they're not improving. I don't think they are improving. I don't think so.
No, I don't. I think I've always kind of said this, and it can. You know, I've had multiple conversations with people on Twitter or just in general. I think this game should be coming out every 2 years, and we should just be getting some patches and some updates. You know, maybe add a new character here and there, just kind of keep the game fresh. But in that 2 years, they can actually work on having a new game every 2 years, and I'd happily give them my $100 every 2 years to go, okay, I'm getting a different game, while keeping whatever incarnation of the game we've got fresh, with some new arenas or some new themes or some, you know, new characters or whatever it may be, just to keep it, you know, people, you know, playing it. Sure, I'd be down for that. And actually giving it a new game every couple of years, I'd be totally fine with that. I don't know, some people's opinions will probably be way different, but it just, to me, seems then, at least, they're advancing with the space. You're so right about consoles. I've had the same PlayStation 4 since I got it 5 years ago, or whatever it was, 4 years ago, whenever it came out. I have not updated my PlayStation because there's really no need to. The gap between, you know, generation to generation is, you know, what they're already talking about, a PlayStation 5 and the next Xbox and stuff like that.
Of course.
To come out in, you know, next year or wherever. So it's not like I'm going to buy a new PS4 now. There's really no need for me to buy a new PlayStation 4, you know, spend $400 to buy another one. I don't think it's really necessary. I'd rather wait until I get a PS5 or the next Xbox or whatever I decide to get.
Definitely.
But that's a really good point, and that's not really something that people talk about, because they could make this amazing advanced game on a PC, because obviously that evolves much faster than a console does. So, but you have to keep everything, you know, similar. You have to keep everything the same on all platforms. Is that something, you know, as kids growing up, you always had you know, the SmackDown series on PlayStation 2 and stuff like that, and then the Xbox had a different game, and the GameCube had different games, and they were all different. Do you think that's something that should be modeled now, or do you just think all consoles are just basically an Xbox and a PS4 are the same thing with just different names in a lot of ways?
Well, that's a complicated question, but that's a good question, actually, because in my mind, if I were, like, I like to put myself into the shoes of the actual creators, and if I was a creator, like, you've got WWE, right, who's the actual holder of all those games. And you know, when you look back in the days, indeed, you're right, on the GameCube you would have like Day of Reckoning, and like, for example, WrestleMania 18 and 19, and then you would have WrestleMania 21 on Xbox, which doesn't exist on anything else, but PlayStation would have the SmackDown and Xbox would have the Raw games. And you know, the problem here is that I get it, they want to be on every consoles, because you want to reach people everywhere. But nowadays, in fact, all the consoles are pretty much the same. Back in the days, they were not. The GameCube was not a PlayStation 2 console. No. The target is not the same. The audience is not the same. And between Xbox and PlayStation, back in the days, there were clearly a different kind of players. And that was a different target, different demographic. Like, for example, nowadays, you cannot compare the target, the audience of Nintendo and the one of PlayStation or Xbox. Yeah. And actually, PlayStation and Xbox are very similar nowadays. Just they have exclusive games, like, for example, the Gears of War on Xbox. And I don't know, like, for the moment, which one is on PlayStation? Maybe God of War.
Yeah.
I'll tell this one. For example, I don't know. Maybe you have a better example than I have right now. Which one do we have on PlayStation as an exclusive?
Oh God, of course. When someone asks me a question, I just blank on all cylinders. But I know. I know what you mean.
You know what I'm saying, right? You have. I'm not a PlayStation player so far, so I can't really tell. But yeah, you've got those exclusive games on both consoles, and yeah. But still, they are kind of the same audience. On Nintendo, it's not. Like, the last game that was released on Nintendo Switch for the WWE was WWE 2K18.
It was
Seth Rollins. Yeah, and I mean, that's not because it is not designed for that.
No.
Straight. It's not made for that.
And Switch is so different because, a Switch to me, of course, kids can still play a PlayStation, kids can still play an Xbox, but it's a bit more of a family-orientated thing. I personally don't have a Switch. I want a Switch. It's just, I've just been a PlayStation boy all my life, so that was the first thing I got. But I'd love to get a Switch because I love Mario. Mario is just, it's a cultural success. It's embedded in all of our brains. Mario Kart is something. Mario Kart 64, just a quick shout out to that game. I mean, the hours I've spent on that game, even as an adult, I mean, it's just, I can, I have that, I can close my eyes and just picture that game, and Mario Party and stuff like that, and other games on Nintendo, and Super Smash Brothers and the Pokemon games and stuff like that. But Switch is, alluding to what you said before, the audience, Switch is very much like, everyone in the family can play this, and it's very much family. There's games on there that, of course, are targeted to older people or younger people, but everyone can kind of get on a Switch, and it's pretty simple. Like, there's not a lot of controls, there's not a lot of buttons, like, you can just kind of play it. With a PlayStation Xbox, it's a little more intimidating for maybe an 8-year-old to pick up a PlayStation control or an Xbox control and actually try to, you feel like you have to really set yourself in and be like, I'm learning to play this game. If I picked up a Switch now, it's not hard to learn the buttons, and it's
but you easier. See, that's an interesting thing, because this is where when you are WWE and you want to release wrestling games, you release your WWE 2K20 on PlayStation 5, PS4, Xbox One and PC. You release that like that, but don't try to make a port on the Switch.
Yeah.
You've got to analyze the thing. The Switch, it's not necessarily made for kids, it's made for family, as you said. It's a family console, but it still holds the franchises from Nintendo, like the Zelda, the Marios, the games that are way more advanced, that are not really kid-friendly, like the Dragon Quest, for example. It might look kiddie, cute and everything, because, it's designed like a Dragon Ball Z anime or whatever, but those games are JRPGs, and they're not easy for a kid to pick up. But yeah, so if you are the WWE, what you got to do here, instead of trying to release a bad port of that, you need to work on a game that's way more arcadey, something that goes along what they did with WWE All-Stars. And for example, before All-Stars, they were working on a game that was called WWE Brawl, and it was a game a little bit like Spirit Stone, on the Dreamcast, and it's a game where basically you have your WWE superstars, and they look very cartoony. They are like over the top, they don't look like an actual wrestler. They have gigantic muscles. They look like a Hasbro figure from the 80s, you know what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't look like anything, and they have like superpowers, and but that's the way they should make it,
I agree.
So here on this specific a subject, they can have variety in their games, but in between PlayStation and Xbox and PC, I don't see the point of making a war with a SmackDown game on PlayStation, for example, and a Raw game on Xbox. I don't see the point of doing this. I think that if anything, they should go on a direction where they make a game that's called WWE Universe. Right? They should make it like this, called WWE Universe, and every year they don't release a new game, they release a new, let's say, DLC or expansion pack like MMORPGs are doing, and you don't pay $60 for it, you pay maybe $30. But you're sure to secure the sales because people will want the new roster, they will want the new arenas, they will want the extra content, and on top of it, they can make special things for like Halloween, like they can make zombie mode or whatever they want to do, and Christmas they can put this December to Dismember with the ACW, or they can do whatever they want to do. And no, that's not what they want to do. But I'm tell you. That's something they will have to do because we are going on an all digital era where people will not buy games anymore and they will not spend $60 for digital content. This is just not happening.
It's true. Speaking of that, we are going on to a digital era. It's very much happening. We're in the process of it right now.
Right.
How do you feel about, you're a collector, how do you feel about not owning a physical box or a copy of a game anymore? Does that kind of just make you go like, ugh?
No, not at all. I'm very happy for it, actually. I'm the kind of person that just goes with the life and the time we're living in. And I'm just happy with that. And I'm telling you, I've got plenty of downloaded games. And most of the games nowadays that I play, since I do not own an Xbox One or a PlayStation 4 or even a Switch, I actually have a PC, a very good PC where I can stream and everything. So I don't really have any problem playing any games. And so I download them, of course. I don't even have I don't have a CD player on my PC. It doesn't exist, right?
Don't need it.
And I don't need it, and I'm glad for this because it takes me 20 minutes to download a 40 gigabytes game because I have the high speed internet and like the fiber and everything, and it takes me 20 minutes to download a big game. I play it and have fun, and I'm happy with the digital thing. And actually, people are talking about something called Shadow PC and something else called Stadia from Google. You probably heard about that.
I've heard of it, yeah.
Right, so a lot of people don't understand what it is, and they try it now, and they say it sucks. And, I'm amazed at how people say, oh, well, anyway, I will never take Shadow PC, I'll never take Stadia, this is shit, and I prefer my thing. Well, you do not control the market, first of all, and if those big, gigantic corporation wants to go all digital, you will not have the choice. You will have to go for this. Sure, the price might not be something you're going to spend your money in because it's going to be too high, and then they will adapt with that. But technology-wise, you will not be able to have your word in that. And when I see, for example, a YouTuber that I love that's called, he's called Metal Jesus Rocks on YouTube. He has, millions of views, and, he's a big YouTuber in the retro collecting scene. And he played Stadia, and he said it sucks. But the truth is, it sucks, and he said it sucks because basically it was not going as fast as what he wanted it to go. And on top of it, he made a little calculation saying that basically you're streaming a game, and streaming a game is taking a lot of your bandwidth from your internet connection. But those people don't understand. They spend twice what they are doing on Netflix that they would do on their game. They don't understand that when you binge watch 16 episodes of Stranger Things or whatever, you just you literally drain your internet connection. You just don't see it. And on top of it, people want to see it in Ultra HD and 4K and everything.
4K streaming, you have to have the best of the best.
Yeah, they want the whole thing. What do you think? You think it's nothing on your bandwidth? It's incredible. And sometimes people even go further than what they're allowed to pay every month. So people don't understand, but this is gonna be what it's gonna be. It's gonna be the future, and I'm glad for that, because with Stadia, basically, for those that are listening to this podcast and don't know what we're talking about, Stadia, what it is, it's basically just a controller that you connect to your TV with a little hub, and that hub is streaming a game that is running on a very big PC somewhere else on a data center. Yeah. So basically, all you're doing is you're streaming a game. So this is a little bit hard for people to understand sometimes, but basically, let's say you have a computer that's in New York, a big computer. I'm talking about like the max powered computer possible. And in fact, you are streaming this computer at home, right? Like if you're watching a movie, instead of just watching the game, you're actually playing it. So it means that you might have a little delay between the control that you have in your hands and what's happening on screen, because it has to be sent to the server and come back to you. But the thing is, that little delay, we're not talking about 2 seconds in between action where it's unplayable. We're talking about microseconds, and that's just the beginning of the story. It's gonna get way better with time and technology evolving. So I'm ecstatic, because we will not need those big gigantic PCs that take half of my room with 2 fucking screens and gigantic,
it's just going like
yeah, like when I start my PC, it goes woo, like the powerhouse, you know, like what?
But
here we just still have.
It's just you look at music, you look at movies, you look at television. It's pretty much, for the most part, like I can't remember the last time I bought a physical CD of someone's, you know, record or album. I use Spotify. That's just, I stream my music, or I have Netflix accounts or whatever. Or even my, like, you know, traditional cable company is now all done streaming through the internet. Like I can just watch it streaming on my PlayStation 4 instead of having a physical, you know, cable box, or, you know, whatever it may be. It's just where the future is going. Games are just like watching a movie or something, except you're controlling them, and that's just where the world is going. You know, we won't be having this conversation in 10, 15, 20 years, because it'll just be normal. Like, you remember when Spotify and Apple Music and that all first came in, everyone was like, oh, that's stupid, I want the physical CD, I don't need that, it'll use up too much data or too much stuff on my internet allowance or whatever. And now I can't think of, at least people our age, going around and going, oh, you know, what's your Spotify account? Like, it's just normal now. Netflix is, you know, a juggernaut that you just, everybody, it's just weird when you don't have a Netflix account, you're not watching something on Netflix now. It's just where the world is gone. I like it. I'm like you. I like to just go with the times and stuff like that. But, you know, I have no problem with streaming in general. So it's just a matter of time before it's the norm to stream a video game, or whatever you want to call it. But, it is just the time, and it's just the evolution of games in general. I'm excited. It's an exciting time. I think we're just living in it instead of living behind it or living, you know, in the future of it. We're just in the process of it. It's all going to be stuff that we're, you know, actually doing within, you know, 5, 10, 15 years. Yeah.
Just the people are not ready right now, and connections are not ready right now. They're not necessarily fast enough. People don't necessarily have a fast internet connection either nowadays, depending on the location they are. I mean, I've been living in the United States for 5 years, and I'm telling you, I was spending $220 of internet per month. And I'm back in France right now, and I'm paying, what, $30 a month? And I have twice the connection, the speed that I had in the US. So yeah, and on top of it, they are capped. We are not in France. We're not capped, meaning that if I want to stream for the entire month nonstop my Netflix on 4K, Ultra HD, and everything, I will not be capped. They will not tell me, wait a second, you're using too much. No, it's not happening. In the United States, at some point, they ask you to pay an extra $50 for an extra data and everything. In France, it does not exist.
We're not capped. We have plans that have unlimited, and then there is some that are capped. So you pay more to, I think it's probably similar to the United States. We pay more to get unlimited, you know, non-capped services or whatever like that. But Australia, I don't know if you know this about Australia, but it's notoriously known, infamously known as one of the, you know, most Western cities, countries in the world that have one of the worst internet. Like, we have some of the worst internet in the world. Yeah, we only just got like high-speed internet within the last 4 years.
Oh wow!
I couldn't even stream. So put it this way, for anyone listening, when the WWE Network first came out in 2013 or 14, I couldn't even have an internet speed that would run WWE Network without lagging.
Wow.
So, Australia is notorious for that. We're very behind the times when it comes to just the speed of internet. Now it's a little bit better. We're starting to catch up with the norm of the world and the rest of the world. But yeah, it's been a struggle. It's been only in the last few years that I've been able to, like, stream on the internet, or, you know, stream Netflix or whatever it may be. You'd be able to watch Netflix, but it would be like the, you know, jittery, you know, shitty quality where you can't get the... Yeah, it's really... Which is really surprising for a lot of people, because this country is very much like, I guess, in the forefront of a lot of things. And it is really notoriously bad for, especially for someone like me. I don't live in like a city. I live like at a couple of hours away. My nearest city is Adelaide, and in the countryside of Australia, it took even longer to get, you know, we call it the NBN system, which is, you know, fiber internet, big, huge, high-speed internet. And it took a long time to get that. It's been a real journey to get that and catch up with the rest of the world. But I love watching. I'm a fan of just technology in general. It's amazing what technology can do, and especially, you know, around my age, around your age, we've kind of grown up in that time of technology evolving. Really, like, I understand, like, it's been evolving for a long time, but it's evolving at a very rapid pace right in front of our eyes. You know, the fact that I'm able to even just talk to you right now, and right? We're not close. We're not close in the world at all, and it's like, this is pretty crazy when you actually sit down and think about this. Like, I can video chat with people from wherever in the world, and I can talk to people, and you know, 20 years ago, that was only at the forefront, and it's like something that was like, maybe we could do that one day. Maybe not 20 years ago, maybe a little bit further than that, but it is crazy to think about that kind of stuff. And I just love watching technology evolve, video games, music, you know, movie, whatever it may be. It's a lot of things are changing right in front of us, and it's pretty gnarly to think about, to be completely honest with you.
Definitely, especially when you grew up in the 90s and you know, early 2000, and you're having phones in your hands that are like the Nokia 3310, where basically the only game you have is Snake Eater, or whatever fucking name is.
Snake was a good time.
Where we were talking about polyphonic ringtones, and that you would buy off of the back of a magazine, TV magazine, to actually like, you would spend $10 out of your own thing to buy your ringtone that sounds like the Spice Girl kind of last song. That was horrible. Like, and nowadays we're talking about like streaming and stuff, and like streaming a game from the distance. That it's insane. Like what it did in a couple of years is insane. That's why I'm saying you, like, in the next few years, all digital era. That's just gonna happen. You know?
Yeah. It is crazy. Something else I wanted to really bring up with you, and I'm glad that you kind of brought it up, was you mentioned Grand Theft Auto. GTA it's just a juggernaut of a series now. It's very controversial. I've talked about this on previous episodes, but controversy aside, and just what you love about that series, it seems to be a game that I don't know, evokes a lot of emotion out of people, in just the fact that some people are so against it, some people are so for it. There's just people like us that are like, it's just a game, we're just playing it. Obviously, one that comes to everybody's mind is Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. I think that's pretty renowned as, you know, one of the most fun, and I guess nostalgic would be a way that we kind of describe it as well. But GTA in general, you said about Vice City before. That was your first time playing Grand Theft Auto, was it?
No, it was not actually. The first one I played was GTA 2. Because I was on PC, and but I didn't give it much attention. But because it's well, in GTA, people talking about GTA. In fact, there's multiple universe, and there's the 2D universe, which is the top-down first games. Yeah, and the 3D universe, which is basically the games from GTA 3 and up.
Yep.
And after that, you've got the online universe, which is a total different story.
Yeah.
But the first one really in the 3D universe that I played was the GTA 3, and that was at my friend's house. He had a PlayStation 2, and he had this game, and I was blown away by this game. And actually, I mean, I know a lot of my friends had their parents that would not let them play violent games, or they would turn off the blood. And my friend here, his parents didn't care. They actually played the game too. So they would put the blood on. You would be able to kill prostitutes on the road. No problem. Not a problem. So yeah, it was definitely something. Yeah.
GTA is crazy, and just the open world of GTA. You look at GTA 5 or even GTA 4 and previous versions, but it's crazy that, like, that game, just the amount of scenery in general, you can just drive around and you can be pretty entertained by that game. Just, there's always something going on in that world, even with like Red Dead Redemption and Red Dead Redemption 2, which came out about a year ago. There's just that open world that Rockstar make. is pretty incredible. I don't think sometimes people, I don't know, I don't know, in my brain I just feel like sometimes people don't appreciate that enough. I know they're very loved games, but I mean, just driving around in general and just looking around and going into the countryside on GTA 5 is an experience in itself. Not even to mention the missions and the storyline and everything about those games. But I always talk about Vice City and San Andreas as just games that just... Everything about those games just screamed my childhood. My parents were the same. They didn't give a crap. I could play whatever I want. So
yeah,
I was
me
able
too.
I was able to play that game. Mum would walk in and just be like, yeah, whatever. He's quiet, so I don't care.
Yeah, and look at us. We didn't turn into mass murderers. How about that, guys?
I know.
That? We're good
Isn't
people.
that crazy? I'm not going around murdering anyone. I'm pretty confident I can say that you aren't going around murdering anyone, and I play those games quite often. I know it's a crazy concept, I know, but everyone else, though, of course, you know, is such a murderer these days because of that game. Oh, you know, but it's just crazy how much love I have for those games. And really, you can just put that game on, even like now, you know, you could get bored and you're like, I'll just play GTA, I'll play Red Dead Redemption, I'll do something, and you can just roam around and kill half an hour, and, you know, it just entertains me. But San Andreas is always one that everyone kind of talks about as just being like amazing. Good reason. Yeah. It's a fantastic game, fantastic soundtrack. It's just everything about those games I just love. Before we kind of wrap up here, you know, it's obvious that you have a very good outlook on what you do with your content and just what you do when it comes to video games and technology. You kind of said before that you did you say you studied social media?
Well, the thing is, I've got a very, very interesting, I don't even know how to call that. I don't even know how to call that a path, I guess, because I did my university in France. I studied legal studies. All right. So I was in law school. Yep. And I graduated law school to become a lawyer at first. And it was back in 2013. But in 2013, I was also doing jazz music. And I went on French national TV.
Hell.
And like a show, like a little bit like The Voice, if you want. But that was no elimination or whatever. And so I was able to play music sing, because I'm a singer, and I was able to sing my song in front of like over 3 million people, and so I was like, this is not enough. I've got to go somewhere else and continue my career as a jazz singer. And so I decided to go to New York in 2013. And in 2013, the only way for me to enter the US legally and to stay there for a while would be to actually continue my studies. So I did business administration with an option in social media in New York, and like specialization, if you want. Yeah. And so I did this there, but I didn't pay attention. I still graduated my MBA, but I didn't care about it. What cared for me was music. Yeah. And so I worked for Universal and Sony BMG as a part of their social management team. And yeah, so, you know, I took care of like social medias of like DJ Khaled and Justin Bieber and stuff like that. Yeah. And and so I stayed in New York for 5 years, where I was a singer on Broadway. And I came back in France in 2018. And now I actually focus on happiness more than money and short-term incomes. I want to be happy altogether. And, you know, it's sometimes people don't realize that. They feel like, you know, I've been surrounded by people that were millionaires, and I'm telling you, they were sad as fuck. And they had a miserable life, and nothing would thrill them anymore. And I'm not a millionaire at all. Don't get me wrong. I'm far from it. And like right now, I don't know if I should buy this $20 game on eBay. That's how it is right now.
Relatable.
Yeah. So, you know, but no, I want to focus on happiness. And honestly, if there is one thing that I want to spread on my channel and everything, is just do what you like to do. You know, what do you want to do? Do what you love to do. And as you said at the beginning of this podcast, very important, you don't care about the numbers. Do not care about the numbers. I'm telling you, and that comes from a perspective of somebody that worked in social media. Yeah. Sure, it feels good to have likes and everything and views and blah, blah, blah. But I'm telling you, this is a long-term game. Unless you have a buzz, like not a buzz, sorry, a viral content that goes right away, and like even people that do a piece of content that goes viral, most of the time these people are not prepared for it, and so when it goes viral, they can't hold it back together behind it because they are not prepared to have the content that it needs. So when you have people like, let's say, I don't know, that lady that made that video about the Star Wars mask. I don't know if you heard about this. It was, I guess, 2 or 3 years ago, maybe 4 years ago, that lady that went to Walmart with a Chewbacca mask, and she put it on in her car, and she started to open her mouth, and it just does the sound of Chewbacca.
Yeah. And
she laughs hysterically on it. And sure, it brought millions and millions of views. Everybody talked about it. Disney contacted her to be in the last toy ad on Walmart thing and everything, but it stopped there because she had zero content online. Where a guy like Unbox Therapy, for example, on YouTube, that is like unboxing, like, computers, new technologies and everything, he was doing this for like 2 or 3 years, having sure, at the beginning had 2 or 3 views, like everybody. Started to go a little bit better, 100 views, 1,000 views and stuff. But at some point, the iPhone came out, and the iPhone 6, and you realized that you can bend the phone by just keeping it in your pocket, and which is a drawback of the iPhone, and made a video about that. That went viral. And this video, the fact that he had already 2 years, 3 years of content behind it, was able for him to maintain what is a video going viral was doing for him. So he was keeping on doing content behind it, and it was the right thing to do. Therefore, if you're listening to this right now, all you got to do is start somewhere, and don't focus on the numbers. Just don't focus on the content you're making. And I want to say, like, you have to document over creating, meaning that basically you what you have to do is don't care about the content being absolutely perfect, with perfect sound, perfect video, with perfect everything. Just start. Just start doing it. Go out there, doing your thing, contact people, try to network, do podcasts with other people, do videos with other people. I wish I could invite you right now, Josh, to play like a game at, like, we could do like a Friday night couch session on whatever game I have. I wish I could do this. Unfortunately, I can't. But games like, even if I shit on them, like WWE 2K something, you can play online with other friends and like make streaming sessions all together. And in the future, I hope this is something I will be able to do. And I'm telling you, you've got to do this, spread positivity, and just do your thing.
I agree.
All that matters.
Completely, because I don't think, like, even when I've been podcasting now for just over about a year and a half, but when I first started, it was just literally, I just wanted to talk about wrestling because I live in a smaller town. There's not a lot of people that like wrestling. I just wanted to get some points off my chest, basically. I started, for many people that don't know, my microphone was a Rock Band microphone from my PlayStation. I just plugged in the old USB into the thing and was like, this will do. As long as you're doing something that makes, first and foremost, the number one thing that...
Hold on. You say the microphone from Rock Band, the PlayStation game?
Yeah. Yeah.
You used this microphone to start your thing? This is wow.
Yeah, wow. I did. That's what I did because I didn't want to use just my MacBook or whatever, like, the dodgy crap. I didn't want it to sound like I'm talking out of like a radio here. I just tried. I was like, this will do, and it worked.
That is mesmerizing. Love it.
Yeah. And so I used that, and the number one thing for me was like, I always just wanted to have some fun. So if I wasn't having fun with something, I don't have really anything to it. Your point with social media and that is, we've talked about it before. We talked about it earlier with like just the interaction, and I don't really look at the numbers or anything like that. Sure, it's cool to have, but never. My number one piece of advice for anyone that's getting into any kind of, content creating in general, never be too big for your own ego, because you can't have an ego going into this kind of stuff, because if you're acting bigger than everybody else, you're not going to be able to connect with anybody, and you're not going to get anywhere if you're not socializing and trying to actually make some, friendships online with these people, or just being friendly in general. It's not even about, you don't have to tell everyone your whole life. It's just, you have to be friendly with these people. It's like if you go anywhere in a social situation, if you're not nice to people are not going to be respectful of you or receptive. So don't ever act like you're bigger than somebody else. Everybody is the same, especially when it comes to places like wrestling Twitter and stuff like that, or just Twitter in general. I'm very much like a bit of a variety. I talk about wrestling. I talk about other things. I just talk about whatever's kind of in my brain at the time. So, never be too big for your own ego. And I've surrounded myself with people on Twitter like that, that just want to have a good time, chat wrestling,
Absolutely.
chat whatever. And that would be like, yeah, but, never ever think, it's a great piece of advice that you've got there, is just, if you want to do something, the only way that you can ever try is to literally try and do it. Like, just
do it.
Because
do it.
We all start somewhere. It's not like I consider myself at all I'm not a big podcast at all, but we all start somewhere, and then slowly you start investing more time and more effort and more, it becomes a little bit more of a passion than a hobby. But nonetheless, it all starts somewhere. It just was literally a thought that I had to be like, I could start a podcast. I mean, I've looked it up online and let's start this. And then it evolves. I started doing YouTube content and Twitch content and, whatever it may be. And then before you know it, you've got your kind of online kind of brand or whatever you want to call it. And you're just making content and other people just happen to be listening. And then you get to talk to people all over the world. It's pretty cool. And it's pretty fun to do. And I don't know, I just enjoy doing it. But positivity, happiness is always the way to go with this kind of stuff.
Perfect.
You're very, very good at that. When I just, from wherever it was I watched, or you followed me first or whatever. But the moment I clicked on a video, I'm like, I can watch his videos all the time because he's just wants to have a good time. Alluding to that, you do have a YouTube channel and stuff like that. I very much encourage anyone that's interested in wrestling or wrestling video games or whatever it may be to go and check out LuchArcade on YouTube, because it is a fun time. And, they're not overly long videos, so it's a short attention span world. So it doesn't take too long to watch these videos. You can just kind of have a laugh, have a smile, just forget about what you're doing for 15 or 20 minutes. He's a good dude too, so make sure you go follow him on Twitter. He's a good follow to have. And you're very, what I like about you is you're very much like interactive with everybody. Everyone that replies on a tweet, you always kind of reply to them and being like, chit chat for a second. And even if it's just a second, that can really go a long way. I love that. I've noticed that about you, and I'm just like, oh, damn, that's just a good. I just think you are a very friendly person, very nice person, and hopefully this isn't the last of our chats or interactions. I'm sure we'll chat many times after this. But
whenever you want, because I share the same I share the same passion as you, and I see you're passionate as well. You're very kind, and you jumped on the thing, and you wanted immediately to start a conversation, and your content is just great. So thank you so much, really, for having me and giving me a chance to express myself on your podcast. We appreciate it, and that's no problem. Whenever you want.
Yeah, whenever. If you ever feel like you need to just talk on a podcast, hit me up, dude, because you're like me, we just love to talk. We could probably talk someone's ears off if we really wanted to. It's very natural to me to talk. I've always been that way. But yes, everyone, please go and check out his stuff on YouTube. I'll leave all the links in the description of this podcast, so make sure and go and check him out. He's a good dude, and follow him on Twitter and all that kind of stuff, because he's a good follow. So I guess this is where we'll end this podcast. Anything else you'd like to add before we head off for the day?
Sure, do whatever you want, and that whatever you love, just stay consistent, and just be happy. That's it. That's all I want to say.
Ditto, my friend, ditto. Make sure you check out everything that I've got going on mine. All my links are below. Make sure you follow me on Twitter at JoshRobinson00. Where can we follow you on Twitter as well, Tony?
Whatever info.
I'll leave it in the description below. Oh,
you mean my link? Yeah. Well, it's just that's just LuchArcade everywhere. You can find it everywhere.
Go and follow and do that, and make sure to please, if you can, rate this podcast 5 stars on iTunes. Leave a like on YouTube, a sub. It's always appreciated, and I love you all. And please make sure to be kind to one another. And I'll see you guys next time.